everybody's collecting data. Governments are collecting data, the private sector is collecting data, and they're using it in all kinds of novel ways, many of which are meant to benefit society, but many of which also carry risks for individuals, not just in terms of privacy, but in terms of equity, concerns over discrimination in big data analysis, concerns over how people are targeted, how their behavior is changed, how their relations with the state are impacted. And so there's no shortage of questions.
We've seen in this discussion a tremendous investment on the part of the Canadian state, the federal state, in artificial intelligence, research and development as a national technology for our common good. But really that's come mostly to be a form of corporate subsidy that's not necessarily recognizing the wildness of that technology, the unpredictability of it. And so I think there's a lot of work trying to legitimate and make sense of artificial intelligence as something bounded. And that creates this real gap where it is weird. If it is different, then we need to pay proper account for it. And so really what I'm becoming more invested in is the idea of an Algorithmic Accountability Act or an AI Accountability Act that builds in safeguards and responsibilities to prevent something like the film Elysium, where robots are the ones dealing with all poor people and only the rich have access to real services. And I think that that's actually a really tangible problem on the forefront, where we see automation really adversely affecting certain marginalized populations and further marginalizing them, as Virginia Eubanks, as well as others have talked about.
I make decisions for my own convenience. I give up privacy for things that I want or need. I see my daughter give up, things that she probably shouldn't give up in service to convenience. But it's easier for me to blame like the corporations or Google or Facebook or Meta, it's their fault, when in fact I'm also sort of culpable in those decisions. And so I think part of it is playing around with that nuanced nature of the reality of it. That I'm an abolitionist, sometimes, and then sometimes if I feel I'm in danger, then I'm very thankful for the police.
We don't know what data political parties hold about us as electors and as voters, and we don't really have a way of comprehensively knowing that, or what the data practices are as we become data points in the databases of political parties and campaigns.
Privacy rights is no longer just about my own personal information. It's really about the protection of civil liberties. It's a protection about democracy and the threat that mass surveillance, algorithmic surveillance, disinformation, the threats of these massive platforms that are fundamentally threatening democratic and civic engagement.
This isn't a simple thing of having your image caught by a surveillance camera and that camera image being watched by an operator in a control room. What we're thinking about now is a very complex process of really arcane and almost mysterious modes of analysis of those data.
The way we protect what we have is by protecting the rights of the citizen online or at the shopping mall, in their private lives. The protection of that is fundamental to protecting democracy in the 21st century.
There needs to be a better understanding, I think, across the public about what types of activities the police are engaging in. And I think while there can be good arguments for some amount of secrecy and covertness in terms of the individual people to whom technologies are applied, at the program level, those arguments begin to get weaker and weaker.
We're pulling money out of things we know work well, like community policing, and we're putting it into these intelligence surveillance systems that create a completely different relationship between the citizen and the state. We know that that's going to be discriminatory. We know that that doesn't work well. We can see the impact of that, and I think that mobilizes us to think more carefully about what we're losing.
We really have to move away from the Silicon Tech Bro kind of approach to things, which is just like, yes, throw it out there, gather what you can, sell and resell that data over and over again, right? I still get emails from weird things because someone sold my email multiple times to multiple things.
It's easier to go to technology than it is to actually try to deal with the underlying issues.
We need to decouple human data from capitalism in order to make sure that we understand that some of this is useful for things, but how do we make it useful for things, in a thoughtful, meaningful way without being extractive and exploitative.